Stop scrolling, because tonight, something shifts, not just in the sky, in you. The moon will turn red, and when it does, most people will call it rare, beautiful, astronomical. But that's not what this is. This is exposure. This is emotional truth rising to the surface whether you're ready or not. If the past few days have felt strange, heavy, emotionally charged, that's not random. If you've been overthinking at night, replaying conversations, feeling distant from people you used to feel close to, getting triggered by small things, feeling restless for no clear reason, that's not weakness, that's alignment pressure. Because when a blood moon rises, it doesn't create chaos. It reveals what's already unstable. It pulls suppressed emotions out of hiding. It magnifies what you've been tolerating. It shines a red light on attachments that are cracking. And here's the part no one tells you. If you ignore what surfaces tonight, you repeat it. The same relationship pattern, the same emotional cycle, the same internal conflict for months. Tonight is a reset window, a rare one. Not the manifest your dream life kind, the face what you've been avoiding kind. And I need you to stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to explain exactly why this eclipse feels personal, who it's targeting the most, and how to use this emotional surge instead of being controlled by it. This isn't hype, this is timing, and your emotional timeline is shifting, whether you participate consciously or not. Now, let's break this down. A blood moon happens during a total lunar eclipse. Astronomically, it's simple. The Earth moves directly between the sun and the moon. The sun's light gets blocked. The only light that reaches the moon passes through Earth's atmosphere, and that filtered light turns it red. Science explains the color, but it doesn't explain the feeling. Because spiritually, symbolically, emotionally, a blood moon represents shadow illumination. The moon has always been linked to emotion, the subconscious, memory, the hidden parts of the self, the stories we tell ourselves in the dark, the wounds we learn to function with, the attachments we pretend we've healed from. Now imagine that emotional body, turning red. Red is not calm energy. Red is intensity, exposure, activation, survival instinct, truth without a filter. When the moon turns red, it's like your emotional world is put under a heat lamp. What's unresolved starts to swell. What's suppressed starts to rise. What you buried starts knocking from the inside. And that's why blood moons don't feel soft. They feel raw. Old memories resurface out of nowhere. You think you're over something, and suddenly it's back in your chest like it never left. Suppressed anger rises, not always loudly but quietly, through irritation, distance, withdrawal. Truths you avoided start demanding attention, not politely, forcefully. This is why during blood moons patterns break. People end relationships they've been tolerating for years, secrets surface that were barely being contained. Emotional breakdowns happen, not because someone is weak, but because the emotional pressure has reached capacity. And then there are the realizations, the sudden, crystal-clear moments where you see someone exactly as they are, where you recognize you've outgrown a space, where you realize you've been shrinking yourself to keep something alive that should have ended. Those realizations feel shocking, but they're not random, they're revelations. A blood moon doesn't create instability, it exposes it. It doesn't destroy healthy foundations, it cracks unstable ones. Think of it like emotional detox. When your body detoxes, it doesn't feel pleasant. You might feel tired, irritated, sensitive, emotional. That doesn't mean you're breaking down. It means your system is clearing out what doesn't belong. The same thing happens here, but on a psychological and energetic level. The eclipse pulls hidden emotions out of the subconscious and into awareness. And awareness is uncomfortable before it becomes freeing. So if tonight feels intense, if emotions feel amplified, if situations feel like they're reaching a breaking point, don't label it chaos. Recognize it as cleansing. Because what surfaces during a blood moon isn't here to punish you. It's here to show you what you're finally strong enough to release. Be honest with yourself for a second. Today feels different, heavier. Like there's weight in the air you can't explain. You're overthinking small conversations, replaying old memories you thought you deleted, thinking about people you haven't spoken to in months, questioning decisions that felt fine just last week, wondering if you're on the right path, wondering if certain people are really meant to stay. That's not random moodiness. That's lunar activation. During an eclipse, the subconscious gets louder than the conscious mind. The logical voice fades, the emotional body steps forward, and when the moon turns red, it's like someone turned the brightness all the way up on your inner world. The blood moon becomes a spotlight, and it doesn't spotlight your strengths first. It highlights what's unstable. Toxic attachments you've been calling loyalty. Emotional dependency you've been calling love. Fake connections you've been calling history. Self-sabotage patterns you've been calling bad luck. This is why things feel amplified. A small text feels loaded. Silence feels personal. Distance feels dramatic. But here's the truth. The eclipse isn't creating the crack. It's revealing it. If someone suddenly pulls away tonight, let them. Chasing during an eclipse locks you into old cycles. Detachment allows truth to reveal itself. If a hidden truth surfaces, about someone else or about yourself, let it. Don't rush to control the narrative. Don't rush to fix what's being exposed. Let the exposure happen. Because clarity is uncomfortable before it becomes empowering. And if you feel emotional for no clear reason, if tears show up out of nowhere, if your chest feels tight with memories you thought were resolved, release it. Crying during a blood moon isn't weakness. It's purging. You're not too sensitive. You're processing. This is emotional karma clearing, not mystical punishment, not cosmic drama. Clearing. Old emotional contracts dissolving. Old energetic cords loosening. Old versions of you struggling to hold on. And that heaviness you feel, that's pressure leaving your system. Don't fight it. Because on the other side of this intensity is emotional freedom you didn't even realize you were ready for. Listen carefully, because this part matters more than anything else. From the exact moment the blood moon reaches its peak, a 72-hour emotional reset window opens, not metaphorically, energetically, psychologically. This is the compression zone. For the next 3 days, emotions move faster, conversations hit deeper, decisions carry weight, reactions echo longer than usual. It's like your emotional world is under accelerated gravity. And here's the rule of this window. What ends, ends permanently. What begins, begins karmically aligned. This is not casual energy. If something collapses during these 72 hours, it was already unstable. The eclipse just removed the illusion holding it together. If a connection fades, a truth surfaces, or a situation breaks apart, don't immediately try to repair it out of fear. Ask yourself, was this sustainable, or was it comfortable? Because during this reset window, your reactions matter more than your plans. You can plan your goals. You can script your manifestations. You can visualize the future all you want. But during an eclipse portal, the universe watches how you respond under pressure. If you react with ego, defending, chasing, controlling, proving, you repeat the cycle. Different month, same lesson. If you react with awareness, observing, detaching, regulating, choosing silence over impulse, you upgrade the timeline. Same situation, different outcome. That's the fork in the road. And understand this clearly. This is not manifestation season. This is elimination season. Social media will tell you to set intentions, write wish lists, call in abundance. But blood moon energy doesn't operate like that. It doesn't ask, what do you want? It asks, what are you ready to release? The eclipse doesn't hand you blessings wrapped in red light. It removes distractions disguised as blessings. It removes connections built on convenience instead of alignment. It removes patterns you've outgrown but were too familiar to confront. And sometimes, it removes the version of you that survives instead of evolves. That can feel scary, because loss feels louder than gain. But pay attention to what leaves during these 72 hours. Notice who distances themselves. Notice what conversation shifts. Notice what suddenly feels intolerable, because the blood moon only removes what your soul has already outgrown. And deep down, you knew it was coming. You felt the crack months ago. You saw the red flags. You sensed the misalignment. You just didn't want to act on it. This reset window acts for you. So for the next 3 days, move slower. Pause before reacting. Breathe before responding. Observe before deciding. Because what you choose in this portal doesn't just affect this week. It sets the emotional tone for the next 6 months. And if you handle this with awareness instead of fear, you won't just survive the reset. You'll come out lighter, clearer, and permanently realigned. Now we need to talk strategy. Because intensity without discipline creates damage. Tonight, emotions are amplified. What normally feels like a 3 feels like a 10. A simple delay in a text feels like rejection. A small disagreement feels like betrayal. Silence feels personal. That's why the first rule is simple. Do not react impulsively, not tonight. Impulsive reactions during a blood moon don't solve problems. They expose wounds. If you fire off that emotional text, if you confront someone from a triggered place, if you make a dramatic decision just to escape discomfort, you may lock in a consequence that outlasts the feeling. Pause is power right now. Second, do not chase someone who is pulling away. If someone distances themselves during an eclipse window, let them. This isn't the time to convince, persuade, or prove your value. The energy right now is about alignment, not attachment. If they detach now, it doesn't automatically mean they're your enemy. It means something is being revealed. Sometimes the universe edits your circle quietly. Sometimes it does it loudly. Either way, chasing during elimination season only delays clarity. And third, this one is critical. Do not ignore your intuition. Your gut is louder tonight than logic. That subtle feeling in your chest, that hesitation, that sudden clarity about someone's energy, that's not paranoia. That's heightened perception. Eclipses thin the veil between what you sense and what you admit. If something feels off, don't gaslight yourself into comfort. If something feels aligned, don't overanalyze it into doubt. But here's the key. Intuition guides. Ego reacts. So instead of reacting, do this. Observe. Watch your emotional patterns like you're studying them. Journal. Write down what's surfacing without filtering it. Detach. Not cold, not bitter, just aware. Let the emotional storm move through without trying to control the weather. Because clarity does not arrive during the peak of intensity. It arrives after the surge, after the exposure, after the wave passes. Decisions made in the middle of emotional storms are usually survival-based. Decisions made after reflection are evolution-based. And tonight is not about proving anything. It's about processing everything. Let the eclipse reveal. You don't have to react to every revelation. Sometimes the strongest move is restraint. Now let's make this personal. Because not everyone feels a blood moon the same way. Some people scroll past it. Some people take pictures of it. And some people feel it in their chest. If you're watching this, chances are it's hitting you. This eclipse hits hardest if you've been stuck in a repetitive emotional cycle. Same type of partner, same type of argument, same pattern of giving too much and receiving too little. Different faces, same lesson. A blood moon targets loops. It exposes the pattern, not just the person. It also hits deeply if you're dealing with unfinished closure. Conversations that never happened. Apologies that were never given. Questions that were never answered. The eclipse doesn't like loose emotional ends. It pulls them back into your awareness until you either heal them or finally release them. If you've been ignoring red flags, especially in relationships or friendships, expect clarity to feel unavoidable now. What you minimized before suddenly feels obvious. What you rationalized feels heavier. That's not paranoia. That's heightened perception. And if you've been feeling spiritually restless, like you've outgrown your current environment but don't know what's next, this eclipse intensifies that discomfort. Restlessness is often the soul's signal that expansion is overdue. Now watch for these signs tonight. If you suddenly dream about someone from your past, that's karmic surfacing. The subconscious clears unfinished emotional threads through dreams during eclipse windows. If you feel physically exhausted but your mind won't shut off, that's emotional processing. Your body wants rest. Your subconscious wants resolution. If you randomly feel the urge to clean, reorganize, delete old photos, unfollow people, or declutter your space, that's symbolic detachment. When your environment shifts, your internal world is shifting too. And here's what you need to understand clearly. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not too emotional. You're recalibrating. The blood moon doesn't attack stable foundations. It recalibrates unstable ones. If it feels intense, it's because something inside you is aligning to a higher emotional standard. And alignment feels uncomfortable before it feels empowering. Trust the recalibration. It's not breaking you. It's refining you. Here's the part most people aren't ready for. Blood moons don't lie, they don't sugarcoat, they don't protect illusions, they don't preserve comfort just because it's familiar. They reveal that friend you've been quietly questioning, the one whose energy feels slightly off, whose support feels conditional, whose presence feels heavier than it should. You're going to see them clearly now, not through hope, not through history, through truth. That relationship you've been tolerating, telling yourself it's just a phase, just stress, just miscommunication. During this eclipse, the fog lifts, patterns become obvious, effort imbalance becomes undeniable, emotional neglect becomes impossible to excuse. And here's the deeper layer. It's not just about other people, it's about you. That version of yourself you've already outgrown, the one who over-explains, over-gives, over-chases, over-shrinks to keep the peace. You won't be able to comfortably return to that version anymore. The eclipse raises your emotional standard, and once your awareness expands, contraction feels painful. This blood moon is exposing who drains your energy but calls it love, what limits your growth but calls it stability, where you betray yourself just to avoid being alone. That last one hits the hardest, because sometimes the truth isn't that someone else hurt you, it's that you stayed, you ignored your intuition, you minimized your needs, you accepted less than you deserved. But here's the power in this moment. Exposure is not destruction, it's liberation. Once you see clearly, you regain choice. And once you recognize misalignment, you can no longer unknow it. That's why this phase feels intense. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And once you feel your worth rising, you can't comfortably shrink again. Now let's talk about power. Because a reset is only powerful if you use it intentionally. Tonight, don't chase noise. Create stillness. Sit in silence for 10 minutes. No music, no scrolling, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, restless, loud inside your head. Stay there. Because beneath the surface thoughts, there's truth waiting. Then ask yourself one question, slowly and honestly. What am I afraid to release? Not what should I release? Not what would look strong to release. What am I afraid to let go of? Is it a person, an identity, a habit, a comfort zone, an outdated version of yourself? Don't judge the answer. Just write it down. Let it spill out raw. No editing, no pretending. And when you're done, do something symbolic. Burn the paper safely, or delete the note permanently. Why? Because symbolism matters during eclipses. The subconscious responds to action. When you physically release something, your mind registers closure more deeply. You're telling your nervous system this chapter is complete. But here's what you must avoid during this reset window. No big financial decisions. Emotions distort perception. What feels urgent tonight may feel irrational next week. No emotional confrontations. If something needs to be said, it can wait until clarity returns. Conversations started in high emotion often create permanent damage. No drunk texting. No late-night "I miss you" messages. No revenge energy. Trying to prove a point during elimination season only proves you're not ready to evolve past it. Choose calm over chaos. Choose pause over pride. Choose self-respect over impulse. Because this isn't just an emotional wave, it's a maturity test. The moon isn't punishing you, it's asking, have you learned? Can you respond differently than last time? Can you break the pattern instead of replaying it? That's the real reset. Not forcing change, but choosing growth in the middle of intensity. And if you handle tonight with awareness instead of reaction, you won't just survive this eclipse, you'll walk out of it stronger, clearer, and emotionally upgraded. Now here's what most people don't realize. The real shift doesn't happen during the blood moon. It happens after. In the next 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to notice movement. Subtle at first, then undeniable. One major emotional shift will complete. Something you've been wrestling with internally, a decision, a doubt, a fear, will suddenly feel settled. Not because someone convinced you, not because circumstances forced you, because you'll just know. That's integration. One connection in your life will either fade or transform. If it fades, it will do so naturally. Less communication, less intensity, less emotional charge. If it transforms, it will deepen, but only after truth clears the surface tension. Either way, it won't go back to how it was, and one truth will set you free. Not a dramatic confession, not a cinematic moment, a quiet realization. You'll wake up one morning and something won't hurt the same. Someone won't have the same emotional grip. A situation won't trigger you the way it used to. That's freedom. Now here's the part that feels confusing. You may feel lighter, but you may also feel alone, because alignment sometimes removes noise before it adds clarity. When old attachments dissolve, there's space, and space can feel empty before it feels peaceful. Don't mistake temporary loneliness for regression. It's recalibration. After every blood moon, the emotional dust settles, and when it does, you see clearly. Who's real? What matters? Where you're going? And clarity? Clarity is power. Because once you see your path without emotional distortion, you stop negotiating with what drains you. You start choosing what strengthens you. And that's when the real upgrade begins. Tonight is not random. Out of billions of people, you're here, watching this, feeling this, questioning things you've been avoiding for months. That's not coincidence. That's timing. Not everyone feels a blood moon like this. Some people see a red moon and move on with their night. But you felt the shift. You felt the heaviness, the memories, the realizations, the emotional pressure rising to the surface. That means something inside you is waking up. Growth doesn't always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable, lonely, intense. But that discomfort is proof that your soul is evolving beyond old patterns. You're not the same person you were 6 months ago. And after this eclipse, you won't be the same again. So I want you to anchor this moment. If you've already felt emotional shifts building, and comment reset below, claim it. If you're ready to release what's been draining your energy, type I let go. Make it conscious. Because when you declare something publicly, your mind commits to it more deeply. And if this message hit you at the exact right time, if it explained something you couldn't put into words, share it with someone who needs this clarity tonight. Someone who feels the shift but doesn't understand it yet. Because the blood moon doesn't just change the sky. It changes perspective. It changes standards. It changes you. And this reset, this isn't the end of something beautiful. It's the beginning of something aligned. The next chapter starts with awareness. And tonight, you chose to see clearly.